Okay. I think we are now live. Hello, welcome everyone. That was a tricky beginning. Hello and welcome to a new edition of Human Conversations. My name's Jessica Lockhart, and I am the director of the International Institute of Humanology. I welcome you all one more month to a human conversation, a conversation on a human topic, something that we think is of interest or inspiration, something that might enlighten you or give you ideas, or who knows, move you somehow. So today, because this is the month in which we are working on the topic of motivation, we're going to focus on how to reignite it, how to get it back when it's gone. As you know, these human conversations always include a selected group of experts from around the world approaching the topic from different perspectives so as to give you a better understanding. As you also know, if you follow Human Conversations, you will have a chance to collaborate, to participate. As you know, we are streaming this through YouTube, and you can always write down your comments, your questions, join the conversation, and we will make sure that you're part of it. And now, without further ado, I'm going to start introducing the first speaker. The first speaker with whom I discovered I happen to have a few things in common. You might discover that throughout tonight as well. Her name is Elinor Stutz. Elinor Stutz broke through barriers long before doing that was popular. She, against all the odds, she defied the theme "women can sell" to become the top producer at every company she ever worked for, ignoring attempts to get her to quit. 11 years later, she lay motionless on a stretcher with an irreparable broken neck. Two visions appeared before her, to which she wholeheartedly agreed, realizing she was about to embark upon empowering audiences globally. She negotiated a full recovery with the promise to be of service. The surgeon and hospital staff anointed Stutz with the title, The Walking Miracle. As the CEO of Smoth Sale, Stutz adapted the motto, believe, become, empower. Believe in yourself, become the person you envision, empower your audience to do the same. She is on the Social Media Committee for Inclusion Allies, coalition devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And tonight, she's here with us on the Human Conversations by the International Institute of Humanology. Elinor, it's a great honor to have you with us tonight. Welcome. Please unmute your microphone.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's an honor to be your guest and to be a guest panelist with Hulya. Thank you very much for having both of us. So we have much in common as far as the near-death experience goes, and it completely changed who I am and what I portray. In the sales arena, I was highly competitive. But those two visions, one of me becoming a speaker and the other to begin giving back to communities, changed my life for the better. And as my expression goes, our worst experiences are our gifts in disguise. You have to believe in yourself that you can do it, become that person, and empower others to do the same. Everyone at the hospital referred to me as a walking miracle because there was no way I was supposed to survive. And I never forgot my promise. Every aspect of my work, no matter the criticism or ridicule I received, I believed in myself. And when things got really dark, I would contemplate on everything that occurred, what I would like to see improved, and how I may empower others. So one example was we moved cross country to the East Coast, and I was invited to business conferences. People took one look at me and walked in the other direction. They wouldn't even say hello because I'm an older female. So I decided, the heck with this, I'll hide behind my writing, and I began a blog. And it soon became my community service project where I asked leaders from varying fields to contribute their best insights so that readers can improve their careers. And because of the community goodwill spirit, the blog began to take off. And my book, that was another poor experience. Long ago, after my sales career, I became an entrepreneur, and I was asked to introduce myself on stage. And upon saying I was a sales trainer, the ridicule and horrible laughter were unbelievable. And someone kindly took me aside to say, you better write a book to establish credibility. My phone wasn't ringing, nothing for me to lose. In 4 months, I wrote a corporate tell-all with names changed to protect the guilty. It's about all those awful corporate experiences. And what happened? Because everybody else is experiencing the same and not much has changed today, the book was featured in Time magazine and quickly became a bestseller. Nice girls do get the sale, relationship building that gets results. The men were horrific to me. Clientele loved me, calling me a breath of fresh air. During the COVID years, my writing became more prolific and I had more guests contribute to the blog. The book was announced to be evergreen among the classics. If you ever thought I expected any of this to happen, never. It was a wonderful surprise. But the point is, as we begin to give the best of what we know, our worst experiences, the lessons we learned, and how people can take steps to move past to achieve their dreams, that's the golden ticket for finding your success. And it's about helping each other, promoting one another, and doing the best you can so that you live a fulfilling life. And my motto out of all of this is the 3 P's: purpose, passion, perseverance. You have to follow those 3 P's to make it all happen. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Never give up, keep going.
Thank you so much, Elinor. I fully agree with your words, all of them. And I love the 3 P's. Yes, I will use those 3 P's to inspire some of my clients as well, because I love it. It's a very, very simple way to remember all the necessary strengths that we have to cultivate. I am sure that our next speaker, Hulya, is also going to enlighten us with a lot of knowledge and inspiration. It's a great honor to have her with us too, because, well, I met her in Switzerland and we shared already the screen together a couple of times, so I know a little bit what to expect. So let me first introduce her. I would like to say that Hulya Kurts spent 32 years working within a multinational company, after which she chose to follow her passion of becoming a coach, mentor, and workshop facilitator. She motivates and empowers company management teams and their employees to move forward in their professional lives. Additionally, she specializes in growth management with young adults and teenagers, assisting them through anxieties, fears, and internal roadblocks. She is a published author as well, and I know she will delight us with a lot of ideas and tips. Hulya, you have 5 minutes. The floor is all yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and I love always your moderation, and I'm also very thrilled to share the stage with Elinor, who just shared her wonderful story. It's really brilliant. It's inspirational. And from my side, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I'm Turkish origin, grew up in Germany, and then afterwards I started my career in Istanbul again. Really, I call myself from zero to hero, because I don't have this PhD, master's, whatever you called it at that time. I just started typewriting, basic, simple secretary, nothing special. And then as I was in the multinational Reuters in Istanbul, I put my nose with my curiosity into customer admin. And from there, I moved on, becoming the supervisor, the business admin manager, traveling around the world, doing the certifications, PMPs, and then headquarters in Geneva called me in to say, we need leaders like you. So I led lots of transformation programs, big teams, little teams, cultural changes, you name it. So I went through lots of transformations. And honestly, when you do that, and you know better, Jessica, because you're always on the move, when you arrive in a new country with a family, it's a different story. And you need to find your motivation, which is today how to ignite your motivation. And it all starts with you, like Elinor said, believing in yourself, your heart, right? Here, and if you are in doubt, I've got to say, get your values out. Your values are your North Star, your GPS. And the values will change. Believe me, what was important for me as I was 20 is completely different now what's important for me now. And that's why we need to always take a bit of time, and I know it's difficult, to assess ourselves. What do I like to do now? As Elinor already alluded, the 3 Ps, the purpose, why, the famous wife, 𝗁𝗵𝗁 Sinek, why, we know the why. Why do I do what I do? What do I want to give back to the community, right? What do I want to share? Which legacy do you want to leave behind? And that's the motivator. What makes you jump out of bed in the morning? And if it doesn't, then you definitely need to assess what you like to do, your values, your passion, your strength, combine it. I'm not even focusing on weaknesses or something. I hate that word, weaknesses. What's that? Weaknesses. Okay, we can improve. We can always, yeah, that's nice. What weakness? Focus on that. Do a nice statement for yourself. The companies do have always a mission statement and the vision statement. We love that. So do a mission and vision statement for yourself. You are the brand. Self-care. Take care of yourself. Believe in yourself because, no matter what workshop or coach you're going to have, and we know that, you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink. So it again starts with you to take that little step of action. And if I give that wisdom, that means in the morning to cherish first yourself in the mirror. This is what we see in the morning, right? We wake up and then we wash our face and then say, I love you. I hear you. I give you a hug. Love yourself. We don't do this a lot. We put only pressure, and that creates unnecessary anxiety and unnecessary, how shall I say, not satisfied, not fulfilled. And you know what? Life is too short. And Elinor and Jessica, life is too short to live in unfulfilled life. That's why, where's the book? I wrote this book, Break Free from Your Hamster Wheel. And coming from corporates, I know exactly how professionals feel and how they want to actually get out somehow. And that really depends. Everyone is different. And I wanted to give them the compass, that handbook, which gives them the way, really pave and create an action plan how to do that. Find your inner motivation, the why, the purpose, the passion, and combine that with every day's wonderful little moments to cherish, even if it's only a coffee. I think 5 minutes is over, so I can continue more and more. So I should better, recap here because we're going to have different questions. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Hulya. Well, we have to really believe in ourselves and we have to stop just taking the pressure that falls on our shoulders, for sure. I will now take advantage of being the hostess to give myself 5 minutes to also approach the topic. To those of you who don't know me, who connect here for the first time, I am the creator of Humanology. That is a new discipline that focuses on studying and understanding and explaining human beings on a very integral, comprehensive way. We've been studying human beings in a piecemeal way, fragmented like the mind through psychology and psychiatry, the relations through sociology, but we are integral beings, so we need to understand ourselves as whole beings. And that's what humanology is all about. So as a humanologist, I am a professional consultant. That's basically what I do. I help human beings know and understand themselves, both in the personal aspects as well as professional ones. And I help them find new ways to connect the dots and understand themselves so they can make progress and move on. And today we're talking about reigniting our motivation. And as Elinor, I also have a story to tell. It's a history of pain. It's a history of car accidents like hers. And it's a history in which I was told I would never walk again. For many years, I was in constant pain, especially during a 7-year period. I was in acute constant pain on both legs on my back. And because I'm allergic to all kinds of medication, I couldn't take anything. And that really drained me. That took a very heavy toll on me. And not only me, my family, my husband, my children as well. Because bearing that acute pain every day is exhausting, to say the least. Until one day, a friend came by to visit me and asked me one question that was the trigger for everything else. She asked me, where did your optimism go? And that was like a shock to me, because I realized that I had gone from being this, as you can see, strong, lively woman to being like this and having no energy to do anything. I completely lacked the motivation to do anything. And I realized that without that first motivation, there's nothing else. That push to move is the beginning of it all. And unless you have it, nothing happens. That's what we encounter, for example, in people who suffer from depression. As Professor Seligman defined it, depression is nothing but an absolute lack of optimism. And as an expert in optimism that I became, I have to say that motivation is one of the key elements of optimism. And understanding and knowing what type of motivation you have, how to trigger it, how to manage it, how to reignite it, is fundamental if you really want to get out of that catatonic state and move into life to do things. But I always explain that we human beings have our own type of motivation. Motivation is something that professionals have tried to define for years now, and there's many different classifications. We have some classifications that divided into intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic within you, extrinsic, you're motivated by things outside of yourself. Or positive, negative. Positive is with rewards, negative is with punishment. In Humanology, we have discovered that there is another classification, a dichotomy really, that helps us help our clients know and understand themselves very well, and then take action, because that's the key. Once you know and understand yourself, you can take action. We explained that all human beings have one of two types of motivation, and it's a spectrum. They can be more to one side, more to the other, or even right in the middle. And we use one definition that was created for the world of linguistics, and that was used for explaining why some people acquire second or third languages faster than others. According to the authors of this theory, Gardner and Lambert, already in the 70s, some people have what they called instrumental motivation, whereas others have what we call integrative motivation. Those who have instrumental motivation are the people who feel most comfortable, happy, and rewarded by achieving goals and making progress. Whereas there's other people who suffer a lot when they have to pursue goals, when they have deadlines, when they have plans that really makes them nervous. They have a more cohesive type of motivation. What really pushes them is having a great atmosphere, having a good group, having a great team, and feeling comfortable in their own skin together with their world. Both types of motivation are fundamental. If we want to, for example, imagine if we want to be entrepreneurs and create a company, we might need instrumental motivation to start moving, to get the company to start reaching goals. But unless at some point we have another leader with more integrative motivation that creates a strong team and really strengthens the foundations, the company will fail. So I always invite people to try and understand what is their main type of motivation. Do they tend more towards the integrative one or towards the instrumental one? Because if they try to reignite their motivation by doing something that goes against their natural motivation, they will feel horrible, they will fail miserably, and they will make no progress. So ask yourself, what do you feel most comfortable with? Do you feel comfortable with lists and deadlines and plans? Or do you feel more comfortable with having a cohesive, comfortable environment where people fit in and you feel comfortable with everyone, and there's this great atmosphere, and everything seems to be working fine. And some people usually tell me here, well, I like both, yeah, but which one is like nagging you? Let me make a little pause here and say that there are some people who are right in the middle, okay? And those are the type of people who can support very instrumental leaders or very integrative leaders. They can be the perfect assistants, but they cannot be leaders themselves because they don't have the push they need to lead. So if you're trying to reignite your motivation, first, try and understand what kind of actions you need to undertake to get remotivated. And then start approaching your motivation from that perspective. Do you like plans? Make them. That will help you. Do you like a more cohesive world? Focus on that. That will start your move. So this is something I wanted to add to today's conversation here. I hope it somehow inspired you to think about motivation and how to reignite motivation. I'm going to now invite our two other speakers to join me on the screen. We have them now on screen because we're going to try and answer some questions that will for sure also give us some insights and some information on understanding what a motivation and reigniting motivation is all about. So we're going to ask you a set of questions, and I would like you to try and answer them in a way that will inspire our audience. Are you ready? Okay, so the first question says, let me find it. 1 second, please. What did I do with it? Oh, I'm sorry, being live today is proving a little complicated. I don't know why. This is driving me a little crazy today. Okay. So the questions that we had for tonight are the following. There we go. First question, how can we use our community or group to help us keep a high level of motivation? So, Hulya, would you like to answer the question first?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the beginning of the question was what, Jessica, again?
Okay, the question is, how can we use our community or group to help us keep a high level of motivation?
Yeah, I mean, we are tribal, right, as humans, and we love to have relationships. That comes also from our caveman times, that we are always together, huddling together and supporting each other. So I think communities are really key to give us motivation, to inspire us, and vice versa. It's a two-way, relationship. It's not only one way. So it's not me only taking, but I'm also giving. And in communities, we could have toxic people as well. We know toxic people can drain us, can put us down. However, if you are strong within yourselves and you can motivate yourself, your inner self, and find that energy, you can manage even toxic people, even in the community. And community, you know how I see that? Because I live where? I live in Switzerland, but I'm Turkish. So I love to have my Turkish community. I need to have my little Turkish tribe. That motivates me because we share the profound culture of, just to give you an example, belly dancing, folklore, our kitchen, chit-chatting, reading from the Turkish coffee cup, the future. What are you seeing there? So, so that will be depending on the Turkish coffee cup to know what the future will bring us. So that brings joy. To be with community, it brings you joy, the way or the other. And with that, even if you share something which is bad, could be someone passed away, we are together. That means when we share that kind of bad or adversities, it's half shared. You feel that support. That happened to me. My husband passed away here. It was heart attack. It was like this. And immediately my Turkish community came and they gave me such a big support that you didn't feel lonely. And that helped a lot. We've got traditions, when someone passes away, we have got different ways of doing stuff. And that gives you that hold, that kind of you know, it's stronger than anything else. There are no words for that. So I think community is very important for us as humans, and alone individually. And we know it for a fact. Even here, if you're old, you feel lonely, the suicidal rates are higher in those countries where people feel lonely. Why? Because they don't see the purpose anymore. They don't have the motivation to get up in the morning. They don't see how they're going to contribute or how they can be useful, because that's also another trigger to feel useful. I love what I'm doing because I share my wisdom, my knowledge with everyone, and I can see I can empower them and give them the energy that I have so they can take the next step. And that is huge. And that's the same, you know, communities are vital for our existence, for our motivation, for our purpose, for our freedom even, although you might argue that because, you know, you've got the community pressure. But okay, that aside, you know, it's a whole. And I think life is so beautiful together, to share the wonderful meal, to share only a coffee, to share that wonderful moment that we do now, that communities are really essential. And I think it's a two-way thing. And communities, that's why we have women's group. That's why I'm also in diversity inclusion. Elinor, I have created the diversity inclusion stream. I'm still in organization Women International Trade to support the women in entrepreneurship. And that's beauty. So communities are essential.
Thank you so much, Hulya. Elinor, what would you say? How do you think we could use communities and groups to help us keep a high level of motivation?
Well, this conversation is a perfect example of finding people have similar values and priorities, and you can trust them. And that's what it's all about. It's encouragement to continue going down your path. Growing up, I was always bullied, laughed at. Nobody understood anything I was talking about. So as I said earlier, our worst experiences are our gifts in disguise. Given no one would talk to me all the ways through school, I would talk to myself in the mirror, and I'd watch my facial expressions, my hand gestures, my body language. Guess what that was a prelude to? Selling. So I would weigh pros and cons of both sides of the conversation, that, you know, where I was criticized, and to determine which was the better route. And that's what I did with my clientele. Moving forward, though, as far as motivation, sometimes you get really down. Admittedly, there were many times when I thought about quitting. Being an entrepreneur is difficult. And again, you're by yourself most often. And it's challenging, especially to keep up with technology. I'm a creative. I'm not a tech person, as you saw earlier. And Hulya and I have much in common. You have to weed out the right people. So interestingly, I always enjoyed Twitter in the early years. And there was one gentleman putting out the nicest tweets. In my experience, other than my husband, I didn't know any nice gentlemen, to tell you the truth, but he was exceptional. So I asked if we could have a meeting, a Zoom meeting, to find out what his story was. It turned out he was trained in the military. His name is Greg Jenkins, highly admirable. He was trained by the military to teach about inclusion, diversity, and equity. So diverse teamwork, equal pay, which I'd still like to see it exist, and inclusion of all. And to tell you the truth, I always say our worst challenges are our gifts in disguise, because I was ridiculed all the time. At age 16, I began international travel, and I've never stopped. I've been to many countries, and in my opinion, it opens up your heart and mind. So I met Greg. I said, I'm curious by your tweets, and we became good friends over time. But his immediate reaction to me was, I'm a part of Inclusion Allies Coalition. Would you like to be on the social media committee? To which I immediately said yes. And because those people had the same commitment, we became fast friends. We have not met in person, but just the communications and all the meetings we realize our priorities are almost exactly the same. One even comes from another country. It doesn't matter. We just all want everyone to be treated fairly and justly. And so that's my mission. And I exclaim, I've said it before, you need to learn from the worst experiences so you can improve your standing and teach others how to do the same. And that way we all win together.
Thank you so much, Elinor. Yes, I fully agree with both of you. It is very important to surround ourselves with people who are a little bit like us, who have similar goals, values, and principles. But I would like to add something to that. I think it's also important to have people in our environment who trigger us, who question us. It's important to have people who don't agree with us. People like I am doing right now, you know, people who say, hey, wait a minute, maybe there's something else, because we sometimes find ourselves like too comfortable in our comfort zone with our friends and the people who do what we do and who help us continue the same way we've always been doing. And that could result in us being somehow stuck and feeling comfortable, but maybe not motivated to do anything else because we're okay, that's fine, life is great. And we sometimes need the pusher, the person who makes us question everything again. I would say that the kind of person we would all need and the kind of community or group support that we would all need also depends on the dichotomy I explained before. If you are an instrumental motivator, you will need people who push you to get goals, people who value those, people who really set deadlines, people who will sit down with you and say, hey, you need to do this because we need to get there by blah, 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 and give you the details. But others will feel most comfortable when they find, like you just said, that community and that sense of belonging and that sense of joint growth. So by your conversation and your comments, I would suppose that you both have more integrative types of motivation, and that is why that kind of environment of joint growth helps you so much. So I would love to somehow later test you or give you our test for the type of motivation you have to see if I agree, if I was right or not. But I think it's important to not only have those who agree with us, but also those who disagree, because that will challenge us and that will also make us move.
I completely agree, Jessica. Yeah, I completely agree. Building on that, yeah, otherwise we cannot grow. You know, we need to have the different perspective, and that alludes to what diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? So if we are the, how shall I say, advocates for diversity, inclusion, equity, that means we also surround ourselves. You know, we're more comfortable with our tribe, that's okay. But, you know, 20% of it, you might want to challenge yourself, learn something new, get out of your comfort zone, you're telling me, and that's great. And I think that's the essence of life. Again, that's another motivator. You know what? To do something, to achieve something that you haven't tried before. So getting this little nudge, that's wonderful. For example, me, I learned skiing very late. What was the trigger to learn ski? I arrived in Switzerland. Everywhere we've got the mountains. My son, 7 years old, he was going on ski lessons. I said, okay, that's the time. Now we're going to learn skiing. I fell, I don't know, 1,000 million times or something, but now I can ski the red and black slopes. So that's, you know, another achievement that I'm proud of. And that's also motivator, right? Brings you to life, gets you that you hang on life and don't go into this hole of black depression maybe, or not seeing faith, or whatever it is which brings you down. Doing something different, unusual, brings you up.
Yeah, that also happens to some people, I would say. Hulya, I'm sure you agree with what I'm going to say right now. We're all different, and sometimes Having to do something new might scare some people instead
yeah.
of motivating them. What would I say in that case? And this is something that I thank you for mentioning because I think it's important. If you're one of those who feels a little threatened by motivation, and that happens, I would suggest you try a little technique that we find useful in those cases.
Mhm.
I call it Kaizen, taken from the Japanese methodology. And what it actually means is if you see a big mountain in front of you, don't focus on reaching the top. That's too big, too scary, too overwhelming. Just focus on the first step you have to take. Make a huge, big objective. Summarize it into smaller goals. And those goals, take them one by one. You know, this goal now, the next goal later, I will take it when I'm there. Then take that goal and divide it into steps and just focus on the next step. That will help those who feel threatened by huge motivators. I just wanted to add that. I'm afraid that Elinor just disappeared from the screen. Sorry, Elinor, we cannot see you. I think you're having some technical issues today. Maybe you could relog on so we can see you. In the meantime, I will continue with the questions. Hulya, I will ask you the question while Elinor tries to sort it out because we can't see her right now. So the next question that we have for the three of us is, did you think that motivation changes as we age? And if so, in what ways and how can we benefit from that?
You know what? Certainly, I believe that because the motivation that I had was I was 16 to get immediate to 18, so I can do whatever I want. Was different. Is different now. What motivations I have now. So I think we are evolving, and that's great. We are transforming, which is great as humans. That means our values do change, our purpose does change, and our motivation equally changes, and that's great. And we just need to embrace it because our life priorities do change. They are not the same as I was young. Then I got married, then you got the kids, and then you start your career. It's always changes. And I think this is perfect because the motivators, that's life. It's like what I say, dance with life, go with the flow. You know, whatever comes, how you feel. And sometimes we don't feel motivated. That's okay as well. That's okay. You know, just sleep on the couch and watch a series. Whatever is good. Again, self-love is important. As long as you know where you're heading and you've got that vision, as you're telling, as you were alluding before, Jessica, you know, the vision, the bigger self, wherever you want to see yourself, splitting that into these little beep, 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 you know, goals, that's important. And when you don't do it for one day, it's okay. Consistency is key. Determination is key, but it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we need to use our breath nicely, you know, in a way where we take care of ourselves. Sometimes we don't do anything, it's okay. But then we shall not lose focus on our vision again. So it must remain, it must be in front of our eyes, and we shall take little steps, as you're saying, towards that motivation. And with age and with experience and with all the adversities in life that we heard from you, Jessica, and from you, Elinor, our motivation changes again. Our spirit changes, our beliefs do change. You know, what is triggering you is changing. And I think that's perfect. This is life. And I love life with its all facets, with all its colors, with all its changes, because that makes it lively. And that makes it not boring. Because let's see, if life gets boring, you lose motivation a lot. You don't want to do anything anymore because it's always the same round, same round. You don't want to, you do the minimum, not even the minimum, and that's not motivating either. And we are bundles of energy. So if we move, if we are triggered, if we do something, that creates energy. Energy creates motivation. And the motivation, as I said before, can be different. Sometimes as well, you know, depending on the experience, depending on the situation, the now and then. What motivates me here now to be on the show, for example, is to share, you know, what I know with everyone, because that's great, to have a conversation, to build, to hear from you both, where I also take lots because it's a win-win situation. So that's my kind of 5 cents to it.
Thank you so much, Hulya. So, Elinor, we lost you there for a second, but you're back. Great. The question is the following, and please turn your microphone on before you answer. The question, Elinor, says, do you think that motivation changes as we age? And if so, in what ways, and how can we benefit from that?
Oh, I do believe it. I'll give you an example. I'm in an older community. And a lot of people decided they didn't want to work anymore. They would just play games and have fun. But you know what happens? Life gets very boring. Their mental acuity declines. What I have found, and I never thought about it up front when I began my blog, it's my lifesaver. Because of it, I have met people globally. And I keep thinking about conversations, what I read in the news, minus the politics, and statements people say to me that creates new ideas. As I said, I'm the creative type, and I start writing about it. And then I get wonderful commentary. And by staying alert to what's around you, brings new ideas and opportunities. And what's interesting, this other organization called babyboomer.org asked to connect with me, and they repost everything that I publish. And sometimes some of their people, I believe, contribute too. So it's just, like the whole 9 yards. Who are you? What do you want to be? Are you going to allow someone to stop you? I say, because I've had the negativity all my life, you need to put on your superwoman cape. And when negativity gets really bad, fly off and let those darts fall to the floor. May I give you one example that isn't quite to your, but it's the motivation. When I originally wrote my self-published book, because I was advised to do it was the new fad at the time. This fellow in our social group, it wasn't too social in my opinion, said, oh, your content's ridiculous. A publisher will never pick it up. And you're crazy for putting that in writing. And that was my motivator to prove him wrong. And I just smiled and I thought to myself, thank you for the suggestion. So as we all know, the first publishing house picked it up and everything took off. So the next time this quote social group gathered, I was giving out copies of the new book and he ran into the kitchen because he didn't want to see it. I ran after him. I said, oh, maybe you don't know, I'm giving out copies of my new book that's so highly acclaimed already. I know you want to read it. And I handed it to him and then I took off for the other room. I flew away in my mind. But I always keep going. And it's the nastiness that keeps me motivated to prove to people, yes, I can, if that's what I want. And admittedly, I've been down at times, and I need to exercise to get the stress out of my mind, or go take a hike outdoors, whatever it may be. And of course, the travel. It all contributes to gaining new perspective, ideas. And the thoughts that come back to you continually, those are the ones we should focus on to move forward, because it's what we hold near and dear. It's in our hearts and our minds, and we can't let go of it. My whole goal is to live life without regret and somehow leave some type of memory for my family, friends, and younger people that somehow I might have been beneficial to their efforts. And that's my purpose in life at this point in time.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Elinor. I am sorry to say I disagree with both of you.
No way.
Let me explain. Okay, the question is, do you think that motivation changes as we age? And I say no. What I think changes is the goals, the objectives, what we want to do. But the way we feel about reaching them, the inner strength that pushes us towards those goals and objectives is the same always. We have a certain type of motivation. This is my belief, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. And it's always the same type of motivation. If you are instrumental, you are instrumental. If you are integrative, you are integrative. And you will always go about reaching your goals more or less the same way. which doesn't mean that the goals don't change. Of course the goals change. And I love the example you just gave us, Elinor. People who've been working in companies and are exhausted and tired and bored to death by the work, they retire and they say, now I'm going to have fun and I'm just going to enjoy. And then there's the other side of the coin, and they start losing mental capacities because they don't use their brain anymore. Does that mean that they use a different type of motivation to win at bingo? No, they use the same type, but the goal is different. So the question is, how can we benefit from that? Well, if you are aware of your type of motivation, the more you use the different things you're discovering about yourself as you grow, as you develop, will help you reignite your motivation faster in future cases. Let me explain. Elinor just shared with us, and please allow me to use that example, Elinor. Elinor just shared with us that she wants to leave a legacy, that she wants to help other people. Well, that is purely integrative motivation. That is not instrumental. She's not talking about deadlines and reaching goals and I want to do this by this time and I want to, no, she is purely integrative. And everything she's told us about herself throughout her presentation and conversation today has given us the same type of motivation style in the background. She's always approached everything she does, even, this funny story with the man, in that integrative way. He is insulting me or he is saying something nasty about me, I will prove him wrong. That's social again. That is not instrumental. So she's brilliant at what she does because she uses her own motivation in a perfect way. She's managed to know how to use the triggers that push her to get going. When I explain optimism to people and I talk about the element of optimism that is motivation, I usually say that in order to regain our optimism when we lose it, because a lot of people lose their optimism for different reasons, well, if you want to regain your optimism, it's like driving a car. You sit in your car and the first thing you have to do is you have to put the key in and you have to turn it on. If you don't turn the car on, you go nowhere. So that is what we first need to do. We need a first boost of energy to start doing something. And that is the first element in optimism. The second element is motivation. Okay, now that the car is on, what do? I'm not moving unless I move. So I need a destination. And that's my motivation. I need a place to go. Because if I start running in circles around and around, I'm going nowhere. So motivation is that place that we are going to, is that force that pulls us or pushes us. It depends on the person. And then we have a third element that is the energy we need for the car to move, by pressing the accelerator, and that's our passion. Unless we have that passion, we go nowhere. I'm not going to continue explaining optimism, that we can leave for another human conversation, but I want people to understand that that motivation, that destination, that will to go is always enhanced or used by people the same way. They usually always use the same tools. So study what it is that you do when you're motivated. Look at yourself when you're actually moving to get your goals. What techniques are you using? What steps do you take? What do you actually do? That will teach you a lot about yourself and your type of motivation. And I think that because I believe the type of motivation doesn't change in life, I think you will be able to improve it so much by observing and polishing. Observing and polishing. I always say that in order to be excellent, you don't have to correct your mistakes, but you have to expand on what you already do well. So this is the same thing. Observe what kind of motivation you do and make it better. Motivate yourself even better in a more rewarding, and effective way. So sorry to disagree, ladies.
No, that's fine. That's interesting. Interesting point. I haven't thought about that angle. So if I take the analogy of car, right? Put the fuel in. You mean the fuel is always the same? Like if I've got if I need to put petrol in, and that is the motivator that we have inside, which is always the same, which we're not really aware of the steps that we take to motivate ourselves or reach our goal.
Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't thought about that because I think, changing is like, because it might be the goals do change, the purpose changes, etc., etc. The passion even changes maybe because I'm not passionate anymore what I was passionate now or what I'm passionate about now. Interesting. We shall see. So you analyzed Elinor. So what kind of motivator am I?
No, I think you also are integrative, but you might have a few more instrumental traits, a bit more. If it's a spectrum, you might be a little closer to the center than Elinor, but this, without tests, is just my pure intuition. So
Yeah, the
based on
words
your
that we use,
conversations.
right?
We appear to have much in common. So you're right, it's all internal and not much changes. All those years I spent talking in front of a mirror, when negativity hits or I'm called a name or whatever or ignored, I don't look in a mirror necessarily anymore, but I look deep within and I play out the conversation in my mind. And then I compare it. I always have goals. I mean, that's probably why I was a top producer. I have long-term goal and short-term goals, and I'm always on top of them. Somebody, a sales manager once told me how to track them. And I'm always focused on my goals. And if there's something missing, I listen to the negativity to uncover what I might be missing. And sometimes it's that aha moment and you add it into what you want to achieve next. But I'm always going forward. And part of it, growing up with bullies, is I'm going to prove you wrong. Just watch me.
I love that.
That's my deep down motivator.
I love it.
I can see that. I can see that, Elinor. Specifically now, even, you know what? I'm doing this. I am in this group, but I'm cracking that. So that's great.
I love it. Okay, ladies, we have a third question. Let's see. Now, Elinor, you're going to go first. So we change from Hulya. That third question says, how can we protect our motivation from external drains? How can we protect it?
I think I answered that already. My internal thought is just watch me. And I put on my superwoman cape and I just go for it. The negativity actually makes me more motivated. I look at all angles and do what I want. So, for example, in my early sales career, that first job, they thought I was a stupid female. I was going to fail, no sense paying to train me. And for me, it was a green light to do it my way. I see the positivity in that negativity and keep going. And I also mentally contemplate, as I mentioned before, how I can improve upon where I am. And I remind myself where I'm headed, what's most important to me, and what my legacy will ultimately look like. And that, the ultimate goal, is my key for keeping the motivation going.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elinor. Hulya, what do you say? How do we do that?
How do we do that? Well, you need to have your little wonderful safe bubble. Like Elinor said, your wonderful superwoman cape. I say that you create your little safe bubble around you and say, you know what? You can say whatever you want. I'm not going to listen to you. And be believing in yourself. Again comes believing in yourself. We all have imposter syndrome. We doubt ourselves, and our negative inner self-talk is our enemy all the time. So get that quiet as much as you can. Push it away. I don't know. Do some hand gestures. Do mindfulness. Do meditation. Whatever helps you to just calm down and not listen to your inner negative self-talk. You know what? We have a new fear. Have you heard about that? That was really mentioned in Harvard Business Review. FOPO, not FOMO, FOPO. Fear of people's opinion.
Oh,
What people say about us. And I put that out as well when I'm lecturing. What people say about us. What the heck? The people always say something. You know, they were telling me after 32 years of career, you know, in a multinational, oh, surely you're going to find a job, you know, you need to go for it. No, I'm not going to find a job. I'm going to create my own job, my own company. I am going to prove wrong to them, right to me, because I want to be my own boss now. After 33 years of corporate, it's enough, finished, you know, I'm done with it. And I managed. It was a long way. It required determination and consistency. Believing in yourself. Yes. Did I feel down? Yes, of course I felt down. I'm a human. I'm not a robot. I'm not ChatGPT or something like that. You know, I am a human. But then to say, hey, yesterday you were down. Today is a new day. And the sun is shining, or whether it's raining, it doesn't matter. It's a day where we're healthy. The first thing that you need to really think about that is also gratefulness. Gratefulness about the day that we live, gratefulness that we have a roof on top of our head, gratefulness that we have clean water, all these little things first, and saying, hey, I'm healthy, so I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, how I want it. So you're on your own terms. And you know what? We have a saying in Turkish. We don't have people's mouth is not a bag that we can close. They will be it's always open. So you know what? Laisse tomber, you know, in French, you know, just let them talk. It's fine. I know what I'm doing. I believe in myself and I'm proud of myself. And you say, yeah, good. Even if it's a little step, yeah, I'm proud of myself. And just save your little wonderful, either super cape or your little bubble. Believe in yourself.
Thank you so much, Hulya. I love both answers to the question. This time I agree with you. So, how can
I did score. You.
So how can we protect our motivation from external drains? I would like to add a couple things that just came to my mind as we were talking, because yes, I fully agree with everything you said. But for some people, that might not be enough. And there's an old English or saying in English, it might not be English, it might be American, I don't know. Fake it till you make it. To some people that works, you know? To some people, if they are feeling drained by others, they can just pretend and pretend and pretend until they can get where they need to be. And that might work for them, and that's okay. So whatever works for you, use it. By all means, use it. Also, do what Elinor is saying. What are they teaching me? These drainers that are robbing me my energy. What are they teaching me? What are they criticizing? What can I learn from them so I can either protect myself better next time or maybe change something? Something else you can do, ask for help. I mean, yeah, some people are negative. Some people might be draining your energy, but there's others who might want to help you, push you, give you a hand, inspire you, or even just comfort you. You know, if you're feeling down, you're not alone. Use those around you. I also say it's very important to reconnect with our passion. Whenever we feel that energy being taken away from us, we have to look inside ourselves and say, well, whatever they are doing, they are doing. What am I doing? What is my passion? Where is my strength? What is it that's really driving me? You, I'm sure, are quite aware of the flow theory. You know, when you're in this state of flow, it's like, sorry, it's like the world disappears. You're so concentrated in what you're doing that nothing matters. Well, that's our utmost passion. That's when our passion is really, really running wild through our veins and nothing else exists. So whenever you feel drained by those outside of you, try to reconnect with that state of flow. If you're a writer like Hulya and Elinor, maybe you want to go back to your office, sit at your desk and start writing again to block those out. If you are musical, you might want to start dancing to some music or maybe playing some instrument to let that passion flow in your veins again. So yes, there will be those outside who might want to drain your energy for many different reasons. There are reasons. But you don't need to be drained with them or by them together with your motivation. You can also fight that by strengthening your motivation and by using all the little tips and techniques that I just shared. Because at the end of the day, the motivation is yours and you can always get it back and make it even stronger. So that's my answer to your question, to the question. And now we have completed the questions that were prepared for the show. We are opening now the floor to our audience and to you too. If you have any other comments or any questions, we are now here to share. We've been talking about, while we wait for the people to write their questions on YouTube, I would like, if I may, to comment on something we said before. We were talking about the types of motivation, the instrumental versus integrative motivation, and how we all go about facing our goals and objectives and what it is that we do to maintain that level of motivation. And that led me to a question that I've been asking myself about for quite a while now. And that is, can motivation be taught? I mean, if it is something natural, if we are either instrumental or integrative, if we have this tendency, can we somehow teach small children to be a little different in their motivation? Do you think there is something like that that affects us as we grow up? I knew this was interesting. Elinor, go for it.
Thank you. It changed my entire life. I was 5 years old in kindergarten. Some kid threw sand in my eyes. I came home crying, and my dad took me aside and said, if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. And that was it. That changed my entire life pattern. We moved, went to a new grammar school, and a similar incident happened, and I stood up to that kid. We were both dragged into the principal's office. He was the one that was expelled, not me. And that was my path for taking the stance of what's right and moving forward. And I don't allow anyone to get in my way. I look for those who were not only supportive, because I don't want just, yes, ma'am, I don't want that. I want honest feedback, input, and so that I can continue improving. And a sales manager gave me one of the better lessons. Anything that comes to mind, jot it down and put it in as a goal, and keep track of your goals every single day. So you have your long-term goal, but I created in case your audience might like it, I have a postcard of a laser goal setting system. I'll tell you what happened. I was at I shouldn't say where, I'm sorry. I was at a conference and people ridiculed me. So I came home and I created an entire product line, including the manuscript for my book. Actually, it was published already within 4 months, and went back to the same one just to show them what I did. And everybody was astounded. They said, how are you advancing your business at lightning speed? To me, it wasn't lightning speed, but nevertheless. So that motivated me to create my laser goal setting system. As I say, it's on a postcard, and it's about setting your goal, your far off goal, and working backwards till you get to the daily steps to achieve more than what you believe is possible in a shorter period of time. If you'd like me to share it with you, to share with people, I'll be happy to.
Please, we'd be more than happy, and we'll include it on every link to the discussion that we're having today, for sure. So
Super.
people can download it and can learn from you. Thank you. That's really, really very generous of you. Thank you so much, Elinor.
My pleasure.
Do you
Yes.
want to add something to that, Hulya? Do you think that it is something we can teach?
No, it's a mix, I guess. You know, for motivation, what we would say, there is always in the professional context incentives to move people and employees to do something. That might be the bonus, that might be the salary increase, that might be other benefits, could be one day off, whatever, which moves people to do what they need to do to reach the company's goals. So I think there is a mix of inner given motivation and passion that you have versus as well the outside motivators that we have to move people to do what they need to do, i.e. for the students. You need to do your bachelor's. Why? Because that you have a good future, that you have a good career, that you are earning more money. So that's another motivator. Is that something that is inside? No, it's learned. And sometimes we don't like to go to school, honestly, and don't do this. But because it's this motivator that we have for our future, again, coming to the goals that Elinor said, that motivates us. So I think it's a mix. You know, I mean, for me as well, you just alluded to laser. Coming from the professional context, I know how busy people can be. So I created as well something which is laser coaching, by the way. But it's a different concept. It's not cards or postal cards. It's just, you know, for people who really want to have a motivator or solve a challenge, 15 minutes coaching, laser coaching session, we're done and out. Because sometimes we struggle, and as you say before, Jessica, we need to ask for help. And sometimes we even are afraid of asking help. We think it's a weakness. We think we shall solve everything ourselves, which is not correct. So another tip for the audience, always ask for help. That might be your friend, could be a mentor, someone outside, coach, I don't know, advisor, your family, your best uncle, you know, whatever who you have around. Surround yourself, create your board of directors, I call them. Make a list of people who can support you, who can foster you, who can sponsor you, who can help you so that you can get back to them when you need. Because alone, we're not going to succeed either. I believe from collaboration, from union comes strength. That's the beauty of it. From union comes strength. Alone, none of the CEO, chief executive officers, empowerment officers, I call even chief energy officers, because you are creating your own energy, honestly. You are in charge. That they surround themselves with people who can lift them up, who can mentor, who can give a different perspective, because we've got all blind spots. And I think that's important for us as humans and as professionals, because we're all professionals here.
Thank you so much, Hulya. I also agree. This time I agree. I would like to perhaps give a little twist to the answer to this question. I think that if our motivation is intrinsic, I mean, it's natural, we have our own natural type of motivation. What could be taught, and I think should be taught, is to understand that there are different types of motivation and that they are all okay and necessary. Because sometimes we only see and understand our own type of motivation. And when we see somebody else approaching life a different way, maybe having a type of motivation that is so different from ours, we reject that person because we don't agree, we don't understand, and it's alien to us. And we don't actually see that person making progress because we're measuring that person's progress using our own type of motivation. So I think it would be fundamental to teach children that there's this types of motivation and that each person goes about goals, objectives, growth, development, their own natural way. And that is okay. And they're all necessary. The world needs both, and the ones in between as well. So I think that would be an important lesson to teach at schools and to kids. You know, understand your own motivation, but also that of others, because you will have to work with them and you need to understand what it is that they're going to pursue, how they're going to get there, how they're going to proceed about it. It's fundamental that we understand these things too. and they
Would
should be
that be
taught
not,
at school.
yeah, would that be not, Jessica, kind of inclusion, right? To teach actually
Of course,
as
of
well,
course.
at school, at primary school, inclusion, diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? Equity,
Totally.
why we are important equity? Because, I always give that analogy. I have shoe size 38. That's European standards, European size, right? But the size 38 doesn't mean that it fits my feet because they're different, right? So sometimes it hurts. And if it hurts, although it's the same, equal, it doesn't fit. So equity is also important. And I think, what? We really need to teach our children, as you say, humanology, human behavior at primary school, not even always writing and reading and doing that. The whole education system needs to change. Anyways, that aside, being human, having human skills needs to be taught early on. And I strongly believe in that.
Yeah.
I have a story that comes to mind as the two of you were talking. May I share it?
Of course. This is a conversation.
Where I spent a good part of my life, I did not fit in, as I indicated before. And my grandmother kept hammering me, you're getting to the age where you're getting too old to get married. You need to get married. I mean, it was at a time when people got married in their 20s. And that's why you go to college. I said, that's not why I'm going to college. I'm going so I can have a good career. But secretly, they knew I wouldn't have a good career given the way circumstances was. I said, no, I am going to do things my way. So she asked what I wanted, and I said he has to have a good sense of humor, he has to love to travel, and he has to be a nice person. I didn't tell her the underlying reason. Well, fast forward many years later, my grandmother was deceased. We're a blind date because, quote, we're both losers. Anyways, he's standing on my doorstep and he said, I don't want to waste your time, but you need to know something. I said, what's that? I can't stand this town and I want to move. I said, great, so do I. So he comes in and I finally get around to a point where it'd be diplomatic to ask what he does for a career. He worked for an airline. I looked up at the ceiling and I said, thank you, Grandma. That was it. We're going to be married. We're going to have a huge celebration next year. It's been many, many years. And
Wow.
we're opposites. He's technical, I'm creative. We met in the middle. And
Doesn't
I
matter.
have a family. I mean, it's been a wonderful addition to my life. And he's the one who told me of what career to go in. One day I was an entrepreneur at home typing on the computer. He comes home and he says, I know what you should do for a career. And I couldn't believe his words. He said, you have the personality of a salesperson. I got up out of my chair, looked him in the eye, and I asked quietly, is that a compliment or an insult?
Sorry.
But it proved to be true.
Yeah, husbands have that kind of way, you know. My husband's like that too. In fact, my husband is the one who came up with the word humanology.
Really?
I was going crazy trying to find the word that would define what I do, because, you know, I am a coach, I am a mentor, I am an expert in this and that, but I refuse to use just one tool with my clients. I use whatever my client needs. And then you said, well, if what I said before is psychology or psychiatry study the mind, and I don't know, philosophy studies life, you study human beings, so you're a humanologist. I said, that makes sense. Okay.
It can be practical, right?
Yeah. We have a question from our audience. Okay, we have two questions from the audience. And the first one, you need to be creative, Elinor. This one's gonna make you guys think. The question says, P. You spoke about purpose, passion, and perseverance. And the question is, if we could, what would be the fourth P? Ta-da-da! What would you say the fourth P could be for motivation? I have an idea, but I don't want to say it until you guys speak.
Okay, so one came to me. petition others who think similarly to be in your group and motivate one another.
Perfect.
Right.
And
I would
funnily
talk-
enough, yeah.
For me, the P is like potential. The
Okay,
potential
great.
within yourself, you know, I think that's really opening up, because if you have the purpose, if you have the perseverance, if you have that passion, that creates potential.
Great. It's funny because I think I thought a little bit along the lines that Elinor did, because I wrote people, you know, purpose, passion, perseverance, and people. We're not isolated. You said it before, Hulya. We are tribal. So I think that people is also important in motivation. The next question we have says, how can we motivate world leaders to drive peace? Can you give us 3 practical things? Well, let me tell you, we had a very special edition of Human Conversations about a week ago. We had several experts, it was like 5 or 6, both in Spanish and in English, who had to answer the question, what can I do for world peace? And by I, we meant every individual single person. You know, we're leaders, but what can we do? And after the 2 human conversations were over, we summarized the conclusions, the tips, the ideas, the proposals by all the experts. And we came up with a document that you can find on our social media that is published and signed by all of them with ideas for things that people can do to contribute to world peace. So if interested, we'd be also very happy to share that, because we think that we can all contribute to world peace. But let's go back to the question. I wanted to mention this because I think it's really important. The question is, how can we motivate world leaders to drive peace? Do you have any ideas how we can motivate our world leaders to promote peace instead of war, perhaps?
Well, the question is, which world leaders are we talking about? Because there are different types, right? So I don't want to go into that. But other than that, I think the majority of world leaders are kind of motivated to have world peace somehow, right? But the rest, honestly, I mean, what's going on in the world, I can't comment, and it's beyond me. I don't know why and where it's coming from, and why do we still need to create weapons? Why do we need to have nuclear weapons? It's beyond me. But apart from that, what each leader can do, walk the talk, be a role model, empower the first ones near to them, their teams, give them that safe space that will show them that people are recognized, that they are included, that they are respected. And I think that's the most important part for world leaders to actually, you know, contribute to peace. It's slow. It will be one drop only in the big ocean, but every step counts, every drop counts. And that's what I think each world leader needs to think about.
Thank you, Hulya. Elinor, would you like to add something?
Well, sadly, it feels like we might get into another civil war. It's so torn apart here. They need to model what the better business leaders do. For example, I'm a big admirer of Tim Cook. I saw Apple grow from the early days. In fact, we were in the neighborhood where Steve Jobs was. And then eventually Tim Cook took over. And he's big on teamwork. That's the whole essence of everything. Everybody counts. Everybody has ideas, different experiences. And when you bring it all together, you can come up with robust ideas and solutions. And Apple has been doing quite well ever since Tim Cook took over. And it's headed in the right direction, in my opinion. There are other companies mirroring similar. And it's because of the inclusivity and listening to people. But in the States, it's just feels like it's falling apart right now.
Yeah. And I would like to add to that as well, kindness, you know, being kind and generous as a leader. I think that is another big trait that everyone needs to really demonstrate, because this world is beautiful. This world we need to protect. It's in our responsibility. Each one of us is responsible for that. So what is the reason, the motivation of just destroying it? You know, destroying it to bits and pieces. Well, anyways, it's moving because I think at the moment we don't like what's going on. May God or the universe or the faith or the future bring us better futures, let's say.
Yes, I agree, Julia and Elinor. I do believe that the change towards more peaceful leaders has to come from the bottom up. It's a grassroots movement that has to start happening. I think it's already happening in the world.
Yeah.
I think there are more and more voices today who speak in favor of rehumanizing humanity, as I call it, and moving away from capitalistic, money-oriented, materialistic views. I think we are hearing more and more voices speak about things like kindness and things like being true and being honest. I think that we need a new system. The old system has proven wrong and has exhausted its life. It doesn't work. It's been clearly proven that it does not work. And of course, whenever we face a situation in which we have to change the system, there will be those who hang on to it with their mightiest power because they don't want change, and they will fight change very much. And it's something to be expected. And I think we're seeing that in the world today. But there's the other movement of those who do want to change, who want a new type of world. And I think that, and I hope also, that this new world that many of us are fighting for in a peaceful way is a world based on greater humanity than the world we currently have.
Yeah.
And I think that there will still be fights and there will still be wars because there will be huge resistance against a new type of world. But I think we need it. And there's no way back because going back means destroying the world. As simple as that. So I think that answering the question, 3 practical things, we have to do what we're doing now. We need to talk. We need to express ourselves. We need to have our voice heard and disseminated. We need to speak up for peace. We need to speak up for promoting it. We need to give people specific examples of things they can do to foster and strengthen peace instead of always using violence, aggression, and weapons, for example, to defend their opinions. We have to continue expanding this social basis for peace that is growing. And I think we just lost Elinor's image again. I
Yes.
suppose you're there, Elinor, but we cannot see you anymore. Sorry. Well, anyway, we're running out of time now. We're almost there. Elinor, if you can hear us, I recommend you log in again so we can see you for the end of today's human conversation.
Okay, I apologize. My son.
It's okay. It's okay. Technology plays tricks on us sometimes, so we'll survive. Don't worry. Just relog and we will manage. So answering the question, I think that's what we could do. We have to speak up so our leaders start hearing, and we have to really try and make our voices heard. Let me give you an example, okay? A lot of people who think the world needs greater humanity don't vote because they think, well, it's not going to make a difference. But that's where they're wrong.
Correct.
Because
Exactly.
unless they vote and unless they make themselves heard, nothing will change.
Correct.
We need to be actively fighting for peace in a peaceful way, wherever and however we can. If that means going to the polls and voting at the local elections, do it. Even if you think that your vote is not going to count that much, do it. Because it will be the masses that will drive the change that I'm talking about. And I think that's what we can tell our world leaders today. And that's what we can do. Not much, maybe, but maybe enough. So I think we should.
Exactly. I mean, raising your voice, if you, and I don't understand the young generation either. Young generation, please, if you listen to us, vote. Your voice needs to be heard. Don't think it's for nothing. Every drop counts. That's us who drives the change and no one else. Please, and anything that we do, as you say, grassroots, because I'm women's empowerment, right? So I am really empowering women on the people who are doing the crafts, to give them enough information so they can do the trade and get that economic empowerment to feed into their kids so they can go actually to school to be educated and be these peaceful humans to contribute to peace.
Yep. You're muted, Elinor. Please turn the mic on.
Thank you. Yeah, my fight always has been for equality, not just men and women, but for everybody. We all need to speak up, have our voices heard, and point out the contradictions for a better path.
Yeah, and do it in a peaceful way.
Yes.
I mean, we're fighting for peace in a peaceful way, and that's
Right.
important too.
Yeah.
So I think we run out of time. I told you, Hulya, that time flies in human conversations. I want to thank you both for a very human, very touching, moving, and at the same time, deep and interesting conversation. I think it was really enlightening, and I'm sure that those who listen to us will bring some ideas home and will have some food for thought, at least, to say the least. So thank you very much, Hulya. Yes? Go ahead,
It was
Elinor.
wonderful. I'm happy to meet both of you, and I hope we may keep in touch, and maybe together we can put out communications for peace, equality,
Sure.
diversity.
I invite you to go onto the YouTube channel and check out that human conversation with the experts, and then write your comments there, because I'm sure they will read them. And this has to grow. This is a movement. We have to push to get going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
It's been absolutely marvelous to have you here with me today on Human Conversations. As you know, we have one edition of Human Conversations every month. I'm looking for the one we're going to have next month, so I can tell you when and what it is about. As you know, the Institute focuses on one human topic every month, and November was the month of motivation. December will be the month of beliefs, another fundamental topic for human beings.
Oh my God.
Yes, and then on the 18th of December, we will have two experts who will be addressing the question, who needs beliefs? You're all invited to join us. I am sure that a lot of information will come out too. It will be a very interesting human conversation again. And with this, I will conclude today's human conversation on Reignite Your Motivation, thanking our two experts. And I am Jessica Lockhart from the International Institute of Humanology, always trying to help ourselves understand what human beings are all about. Thank you very much, and see you next month.